Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today here on July 18th, Thursday edition. I am Marsh, joined yet again by Jason, JK. Come on in, JK. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Marsh. Good morning. I'm very excited because SimWorld U Football 25 comes out tomorrow, and I don't know about you, but I've been waiting a very long time to be playing that game. I'm ready to rebuild some dynasties and play online. I think it's going to be a great game, and I could not be more excited to
Are you
play
just
it
going
with
to
my
start with
PS5.
Michigan State and just hope for the best, or are you going to build your way up from the bottom?
Honestly, I want to start with Michigan State. I feel like they got to
No,
be the
wrong
first.
answer. We're moving on. Wrong answer. We're moving on. Wrong answer. We're moving on. All right. Speaking of that, Dabo Sweeney said that he thinks there might be some unintended consequences of the 12-team playoff and what it could create. If it might lead to benching of star players, if a team is 4-4, would a team bench their players for a big game if they've already got a playoff berth locked up with nothing to play about? There's been some reverberations from that. The commissioners for the college football playoff had said that they will not make a decision on the 12-team future. It's set to be for the next 2 seasons. They will not make a decision on that future until the championship game. So, JK, your opinion, 12-team playoff, good or bad? Do you think it's here to stay?
I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I think the fact that more teams are going to be rewarded after what happened last season is a good thing. Ohio State, Oregon, a lot of Georgia, a lot of Florida State. Like Florida State went undefeated and didn't make the college football playoff last year. I don't see a world where that can happen. But in terms of the new format, I'm a little bit skeptical because I think 12 teams is too many. I don't think we should reward teams for going 9-3, having group of 5 bids. I think 8 teams would have been the perfect number because that way all the deserving teams that probably deserve their way in get in, but don't have those extra feeder spots for teams that don't. I think that there's going to be a little bit of backlash when it comes to that. I don't want to see a team go 9-3 and still sneak their way in. Like I think there's a chance we see 3 Big Ten teams now or 4 Big Ten teams with Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan in the college football playoff. You're going to see a lot more power schools from these power conferences. Texas and Oklahoma could be up there now in the SEC, but there's so much potential good that can come with it that you can see more teams compete for more spots, which can in turn create more madness. But I don't think that they went with the correct number.
So
They should have just met in the middle and went with 8 in my humble opinion. But I understand it.
How about this though? Speaking specifically to Dabo's comments that there will be unintended consequences of
He's
the
absolutely right.
playoff. So
Mark, he's
you would
absolutely right.
anticipate some of these star players sitting and teams kind of if they're 4-4 just kind of riding out the campaign.
Yeah, NIL's running rampant. If you're getting paid, you're not going to risk an injury, and if your team's playing well, you're not going to risk an injury. You want that bag, and you want to win games in SimWorld U football. So I think if the circumstances don't align or the stars don't align perfectly, players are going to want to sit out.
Well, I think they've already been sitting out. I think is the first thing that we have to consider. I don't think that we're going to see guys sitting out for rivalry games because unlike in the SWFL, there's just too much hoopla around rivalry games that come at the end of the season. So I would not anticipate that we see guys sitting out Michigan, Ohio State. We won't see guys sitting out Clemson, South Carolina. Rivalry week, I think, is still in play. The 4-4 comment that he makes, oh, guys are going to sit out. I think they kind of been doing that already, right? Seasons are gone. Guys that are going to be top guys, they say, well, I'm checking out. I think the Caleb Williams situation last season is probably more the anomaly where the presumptive number one pick decides he's going to keep playing it out. And now I actually think you're going to get an opportunity for some of these guys to keep their season alive. I'm with you on the number of teams. I think 8 teams would have been the better number to have for the playoff, but that's not really the topic today. Specifically to the 4-4 point. Oh, they start sitting. Well, if you're 4-4, but you still got a track to get to a conference championship game and potentially a bid in, that's a reason to keep playing your stars. If you
But
maybe
if
were
you're 8 and
missing
4, you
somebody
can
for
make
two,
it in now.
that's my point. That's what I'm saying. That's true. I'm not. Am I saying it's right? No, I'm not saying it's right. But again, that's not the topic here. The topic is, will there be unintended consequences? And Dabo Sweeney saying if somebody is 4-4 and they're going to start sitting players, I think it's actually the opposite potentially, where if there's still a track for a team to make their way in because they lost four close games, especially in this super conference era where the SEC and Big Ten are absolutely loaded, then I think that you're going to see teams continue to play their stars because there's going to be an opportunity for them to make a conference championship game, go 8-4, and get it. Am I saying it's right? No, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying an 8-4 conference champion should be the way in, but I also think that the reality is these conferences are way too deep. We're not going to see a myriad of 11-1, 10-2, 12-0 teams. We're going to see a lot more 9-3 teams because to expect a Ohio State to go through a gauntlet of Oregon, USC, UCLA, Penn State, Michigan. I mean, it is not going to be easy. To the question mark about if there's going to be if this 12-team playoff is going to continue, I would be stunned if it didn't because 12 teams is going to make them 4 more games worth of money, and that's a lot of money. And ESPN just inked the deal for $7.8 billion to do this, and they want as many games that they can plaster their advertising all over and all around. Let's move on to Summer League, where Bronny James had his quote-unquote best game of his postseason, or his season, not postseason. 5 of 11, 2 of 5 from deep, 12 points in a 1-point Lakers loss. He was a team worst minus 10 in that game. Your takeaways, JK, is Bronny turning the tables? What's going on here for him?
I think I kind of need to state the obvious here, Marsh. This is a 19-year-old kid who's coming off an interesting season at SimWorld U where he had some heart issues. He had a very productive season at USC, which I think people do forget to realize. But he's very young still. He's got more pressure right now on him than the number 1 pick in this draft, Zachary Rissache, does. But Bronny James just needs to just lock in and handle it. I think if he spends some time in the G League, works on his game, he could end up being a decent rotational piece for this Lakers team if it's all said and done. People are hating on this kid for his last name and over 3 Summer League games. We've seen great players struggle in the Summer League.
Last night, though. Specifically to last night. Your takeaway from last night. Not necessarily the big picture.
Takeaway from last night is that...
Takeaway from last night.
Is that he's capable. He just needed some time to get things together. There's going to be growing pains in the SWBA, and the Summer League is no different. If people are just more patient with Bronny James, last name being James or not, I think they'll see him from a different lens, and I think that's what needs to be done given how much hate I've seen from him on social media.
Oh, I'm going to agree with you on the other part, but I've also talked about that, so I don't need to rehash my arguments on this is just getting a little uncomfortable. To last night, Bronny James, I thought, looked fine last night. He hit 2 threes. That's going to be the big story. He was 0 of 15. He goes 2 of 5. Obviously, that's going to be very helpful. But that is really what buoyed what I thought was a really good statistical line based off the production he'd gotten, but he still looked just a little out of place. He struggled to get past guys with the ball in his hand. At the end of this game, it was Kuzi who had the ball for the Lakers time and time again. It was not Bronny James down the stretch, despite Bronny having a quote-unquote best game of his Summer League. He is not the guy that can take the ball off the dribble right now. I thought his defense was really good, and truthfully, I think that's where he's going to excel, is being a Gary Payton II type of guy. Play hound. Now, Gary Payton II is a much better defender. I'm not trying to make that comparison, but plays hounding defense and then sit in the corner and hit a couple threes. He hit that pull-up jumper, which people went nuts about to start the game. He hit the pull-up 3 that was his first 3. But I think last night was a little bit of fool's gold because for the last about 4 minutes of that game, he did not touch the basketball once. He did touch the basketball, but he did not initiate any basketball last night. He could not get past defenders when he tried to. He would drive from the left wing, and he could not even he would just be crossing the paint. He wouldn't even get inside the paint to create anything. I think there's still a lot of concerns. The play you see right there, that wasn't a charge, that was a block, and the official did not call it well, and the ball don't lie because they turned it over on the inbound. But there's progress, to your point, but I'm not going to be raising the banners after one game last night on saying this guy is.
I absolutely agree. Around. It's a step in the right direction, but he's not like this bona fide superstar yet. He still has a bunch more to prove, and I think, and I'll absolutely agree with you on that one. He's 19. Give him some time in the G League, and I think he'll get it. And I think he'll get it together and turn into a guy that can be like that Gary Payton II, like you said. It's just nice to see that there's like a little bit more comfort over the course of his summer league games.
Comfort, yeah. Progress is progress, but I'm not. Let's not. I'm not sold off of last night. All right, moving on. SimWorld Prep news came out. Samuel Charles announced that there might be some concern down south, some misery in Missouri, as the Tigers have just 2 recruits committed around this roster. The first off is Japhet Town. The second is David Duffy. That is it. And there is apparently some concern around Towns and his camp about the lack of that recruiting that's going on. They've been expecting Missouri to make some more recruitment moves, and apparently the Tigers have been a little mum on that, and we're more expecting the allure of Japhet Towns to bring somebody in. JK, this is a team that's going to need some roster spots to fill up in the next 3 days, and the good players are pretty much all off the board.
Here's what I make of this. This situation feels eerily similar to another situation I saw with the Missouri Tigers a few years back at the SimWorld E level when they brought in Michael Porter Jr. They had a very weak recruiting class surrounding Michael Porter Jr. and thought that MPJ would carry them to basketball bedlam. He did. They were 9 seed, but they got bounced in the first round. So is that really what you're going for if you're Missouri? You just want Japhet Towns to take you to the tournament and then just kind of hope for the best, because that's really not going to work for you. That's what I've been comparing it to. But Japhet Towns is like one of the biggest stars in SimWorld Prep going to SimWorld U. The reigning player of the year. I don't know how you don't even bring in like a complimentary piece. You saw how he was on the reigning trays where he had no help. You want to make him go through that again? Do we not learn our lessons here?
Yeah, this screams to me incompetence and asleep at the wheel for Missouri. We have seen a number of teams going very aggressively at a number of very high-profile players, and if they miss out on that, they've got a backup plan in place that allows them to immediately pivot and start adding some more pieces. And Missouri hasn't even done the first part of that. So I think this is, look, hat tip to them in the vein of football 2025, college football 25 coming out. They used up all their recruiting points, apparently, on Japhet Towns and hoped that someone else would just kind of stumble in. And that's not how the real world works. It is not a video game, and they are stuck with nothing. I think this is, to me, the best comp is LSU, and when they brought in Ben Simmons. I'm not saying that they were asleep at the wheel with the lack of recruiting, but it was the same thing. A one-man guy at a non-powerhouse conference. The same thing with Cade Cunningham at Oklahoma State, where this is why non-traditional powerhouses typically don't get top guys, and you see a more strategic rise up in that what we've seen from Houston, right? In the past couple of seasons, the Cougars have been more strategic. They've added good talent around the roster. You look at a UConn, the same exact thing. They don't necessarily fill in with a number one recruit and then try to figure things out elsewhere. That being said, you know who has managed this perfectly is Rutgers. Dylan Harper comes to town, and they immediately go out and they try to get big names, and they fill in with very competent guys like an Orland Mock, the third, like a Jermaine Owens. They fill in with guys that are very good that they think could be complementary to Harper. Missouri hasn't done that.
It's like Alabama, getting a verbal commit from Almighty Soul and bringing in 3 other guys, Aiden Weaver, Coco Bryce.
Well, and also having signed DJ Childs in after the Ground Zero season, which he'll be in his second year with the Crimson Tide. But they've filled in and they've been aggressive in it. We haven't seen that from Missouri. Because of the no opt-out rule, Japhet Towns is now stuck with the hand he's dealt. That's a little bit of his own doing. Excuse me, love to do that
Bless
on
you.
TV. And I do not like the fact that that's where we're stuck at. And they don't have many great options. No offense to the pieces left, but the top recruits are gone. So you're now going to bring in average role playing people. So to your point, as you made it, this is going to be raining trays in SimWorld U. It's going to be a one-man show. Let's just hope it doesn't result in a firing if they don't result in some development in other places from the head coach. All right, that is
I
our
would
show.
agree.
That's our show. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll get the JK recap next week on what his Michigan State dynasty, which I cannot believe you're comping out like that, but we'll get that next week,
Of course, I'm
assuming you've
starting with
got that
MSU
one.
Marsh. I
That's a
have to.
terrible. There's no stones in that body over there, boys. No stones. No bravery. No courage to go down to South Alabama to Kent State.
I was ready to
Kennesaw
start with a
State's
smaller
ready to
school.
cook. No, you start small. You starting at a Power 5. You're doing it
Kennesaw
wrong.
State.
All right, that's so back tomorrow. I believe Rick Blaze is rejoining us for that one on SimWorld today. Thank you all for tuning in here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.